breakfast.
Old guys like old comics, but as kids, we may have liked some comics a little more than others. Case in point, it's late summer, 1977. I'm visiting relatives in another state, but all the other kids are older and off doing their own thing. After being underfoot for a while, I'm left on the screened-in porch with a bottle of root beer, a plate of cookies, and a pile of old comics. But what's this? Instead of Spider-Man, the Hulk, or Conan, I'm stuck with some moldy old DCs, like from before I was even born. Desperately, I flip through the stack, but it's looking grim. There's some crummy romance titles, a dog-eared copy of Dobie Gillis, and an issue of Inferior 5 missing the first 4 pages. I start with the most promising option, a coverless copy of Action 266 from July of 1960. Captured by the Amazon sees Superman getting hitched to this cosmic chippy. Daily Planet reporters Lois and Clark are sent to cover the story of Jenna, the space girl, Ajax Studios' newest star. Who is she? Where did she come from? And why in the heck do they have to wear spacesuits to cover the story? Well, what else are you going to wear aboard the experimental super jet? On board, Jenna is pressured to pick her co-star for her latest film, but all of these men are too rugged. She wants a milksop, someone like old Kent here, who panics when the experimental rocket they're traveling in falters, bailing out and leaving co-worker Lois to die. Oh, sure, we know that he needs to turn into Superman and save the day, but Jenna doesn't. Our hero rescues Lois and the rocket, but Jenna is unimpressed. She demands the studio cast the reporter from Metropolis as co-star in her latest picture. Only problem is, he's miles away in the escape capsule. Superman rushes to the scene, creating this elaborate ruse to protect his secret identity. And it's funny. For as moral and upstanding as Ma and Pa Kent seem to be, they sure did teach Clark to lie well. Then again, maybe it's just one of his superpowers. Kent is soon signed on for the picture, but the rocket is anything but a prop, sporting a new motor powerful enough to propel the pair into space. And surprise, it's also loaded with kryptonite, which drops our hero in his tracks. The whole thing's a trap, with Jenna, a genuine space princess, in that. Turns out they're off to Adoria, her home planet, one solar system over. Once he agrees to play nice, Superman is given his powers back and the ship touches down. The pair are given the royal treatment upon exiting the craft, and Supes has to wonder, what's with all the men? They're all meek and in skirts and look like Schlitzie from Freaks. Taking him home, Jenna shows off photos of her 5 previous husbands, all who died fighting the rebel robots who hide in the hills. Superman is to be her 6th husband, and I gotta ask, what's this guy been eating? Other than everything. Superpowers or not, you might want to work a few sit-ups into the regimen. At any rate, if Superman doesn't agree to get hitched, Jenna's set to nuke the Earth, so he reluctantly agrees to go along with it. However, Cal's a cold fish in the smooching department, a fact that enrages the petulant princess. She makes her tearful case to the local wizard, who suggests drugging her future hubby. Why not? He's already been lied to, abducted, and had his adopted planet threatened with destruction. Might as well go all the way. Oddly enough, the process seems to work. The previously aloof Superman suddenly all in on the romance. Shouting, "I love her! I love her! Wow!" The Man of Steel destroys vital infrastructure in his bid to attain a diamond for his newly beloved. No matter, this is the princess we're talking about here. The Rubes can absorb a little ground-level trauma. A smitten Supes proposes, and he's ardent. perhaps a little too ardent, crashing through the royal palace walls. The confused but cautiously optimistic parents give the union their approval, and our hero breaks into song, the vibrations of his super voice shattering the crowns, urns, and patience of the royal family. Eager to seal the deal, the pair quickly wed. After the ceremony, the Man of Steel makes a super glutton of himself with this Mad Magazine-worthy panel. See what I mean about his waistline? He looks like Lou Grant in spandex. Worse still, he drinks a month's worth of valuable water, and then demands more, then emits a belch so powerful he sends the guests skidding across the room. Your future king, folks. Thankfully, the rebel robots pick that moment to attack the city, giving Superman something constructive to do. He gathers the entire army up and hurls them into the main reservoir. A bit of a blunder. The broken robots spill their toxins into the water supply, poisoning it for generations and dooming the planet's population. Before he can blow up the royal bathroom, the marriage is annulled and a seemingly heartbroken Man of Steel abandons his new planet. But what's this? Using his incredible powers, Superman drags an icy planetoid into orbit around Jenna's world. This is seen as a solution to the whole poison water thing, although I'm not sure how possible future rain is going to help a war-ravaged planet with nothing to drink now. Maybe he dropped off a few cases of Tab to tide them over. Moving on, and let's try a Flash. And hey, he's big. Really big. Better than turning into a baby or growing a giant brain, I suppose. But there is a gorilla, Grodd the gorilla specifically, imprisoned in a special triple-reinforced glass prison. And while there's no way he could possibly physically escape this cell, he's devised a chemical compound that will allow him to project his mind into another random living being before killing his gorilla body. Great googly moogly! Once the process is complete, King of the Gorillas Sleepover is notified of Grodd's death, and he reaches out to ally the Flash, using some impressive gorilla tech. He gets the news in his civilian guise as Barry Allen, and is relieved, if not a little unsettled. Simultaneously, Grodd finds himself in his new body, that of tradesman William Dawson. Using primal guile and his supernal intelligence, Grosson heads to his new job at the sideshow. What are the odds, huh? The new man quickly exhibits a powerful influence over the wild animals, especially the primates. In fact, it's not long before he's leading them on midnight looting raids. Barry gets wind of this and breaks his date with Iris to investigate, releasing a familiar scarlet and gold costume from his ring to streak into action as the Flash. He spends hours patrolling the city to no avail until abruptly hitting the jackpot. Chimps robbing the first storage warehouse? Holy purloining primates! Flash makes short work of the thieving monkeys, but the ringleader is nowhere to be found. Grosson, meanwhile, is busy assembling stolen scientific components into a device that will defeat his speedy opponent forever. And here he comes now. The strange ray has an almost instantaneous effect on the Flash, transforming the once lithe crime fighter into this portly puffer. Using the last of his strange powers, Grosson gives our hero amnesia and puts him to work in the sideshow. Now the subject of mockery and derision due to his obese appearance, our hefty hero struggles to simply remember his name. In this especially heartbreaking panel, Barry waddles across the fairgrounds, seeking clues to his former identity, or, barring that, a broom to scratch his butt with. A chance encounter with a funhouse mirror brings all the memories flooding back, and he suddenly remembers everything, save how he ended up like this. In spite of his condition, Barry's brain isn't fat, and he comes up with an unlikely solution to his problems. He heads across town and plops himself in the potato dehydrating room of a local snack food plant. How he got through that tiny door is anyone's guess. Perhaps the slickness from his copious perspiration greased the entryway enough for him to spooge through. Elsewhere, Grosson discovers his gorilla characteristics have begun to reassert themselves. However, before he can break out the bowling ball polisher, the Flash appears. Grosson levels his ray at the rotund racer, but Flash assures him he's powerless against his new weapon. Grosson scoffs at this, but the joke's on him. Seems Flash is actually back to fighting trim, his costume simply inflated with air. He roundly defeats his foe, and life in Central City goes on. And Iris? Well, she calls elongated, man. Hey, that guy's always up for a midnight booty call. Digging deeper into the pile, I hit a pocket of war comics, but being more of a horror guy, I zero in on the sole issue of Blackhawk, because a story called Spores of Evil could have potential. Top botanist Dr. Cornley contacts Blackhawk Island. Seems he's discovered a terrible new weapon, so they should come over and check it out. The team scrambles, racing for the airfield, their sleek jets streaking into the skies. Meanwhile, Cornley discovers he's not alone. It's Far East femme fatale Lilith, and she's here for the formula. Cornley resists, but henchman Igor isn't one to take no for an answer. After dispatching the doctor, the diabolical duo gather notes and spore samples, escaping just as the Blackhawks arrive. The team discover the dead doc and leg it back to the airstrip, only to be gassed by the fleeing villains. Yumpin' Eudes! Talk about your ethnic stereotypes. Olaf and Chop Chop here are little else. Troubling to be sure. Even my 7-year-old self can see its poor form, but the book's so old it doesn't have a date on it, so who am I even going to complain to? Meanwhile, back at her secret headquarters, Lilith examines Cornley's findings. Igor demands the formula immediately be turned over to his superiors, but Lilith has other ideas. She wants it to destroy the Blackhawks, and, using her feminine wiles, persuades the big lummox to see things her way by Sharon stoning the entire audience. Lady, I get that you're evil, but at least put some underpants on. Elsewhere, a muted throbbing leads us to Blackhawk Island, which appears to be under attack by this unmarked plane. Manning the big gun, Stanislaus and Chop Chop shoot it out of the sky, but the mystery only deepens once the other Blackhawks arrive. A sudden, thorny growth of vegetation explodes out of the fallen aircraft, threatening to overtake the island. Only some quick thinking and a deft application of fire from Blackhawk stops its spread. This was Cornley's discovery, atomically treated burdock whose use as a bioweapon threatens the entire world. Back at Lilith's secret headquarters, Igor reports Blackhawk Island in flames. Now confident there's no one to stop her, the villainess broadcasts her murderous intentions to the world. Henchman Igor balks at this. His masters merely want to enslave the planet, not destroy it. Ah, but the die is already cast, my brutish friend. On to the denouement. Thanks to a little scientific know-how, the Hawks have managed to roughly pinpoint the location of Lilith's transmission. They come on strong, flying into a barrage of missiles launched from the cliffside fortress. Setting down on this conveniently placed airstrip, our heroes get to work, smashing their way into the enemy enclosure. Only it's too late, with Lilith and the deadly spores already bound for Macroon, one of the West's biggest industrial cities. The Blackhawks scramble their supersonic craft, quickly bridging the distance. They open fire on the enemy squadron, but Lilith manages to land, unleashing the deadly spores on the unsuspecting city. Seeing the writing on the wall, Igor suggests they give up. After all, the spores are already on their way back to the homeland, and the Blackhawks are all but doomed. Lilith has other ideas, dispatching the oaf now that his usefulness has ended. Blackhawk appears then, demanding the femme fatale surrender, but she's come too far now to turn back. She aims at Hawk, but before she can fire, the deadly burdock ensnares her, drawing her into its unbreakable embrace. With reinforcements rapidly descending on Macroon, the menace is ended, and our heroes fly home, singing this jaunty little tune. There's something of the barbershop or the VFW about these DC comics. Or maybe that uncle that makes you uneasy after a few beers. Speaking of, it's Bob Hope. Sure, you've seen him mugging in movies and on TV, but why in the heck did he have a comic book? Well, maybe the answer's inside. Morning in the city. Bob rises but refuses to shine, immediately heading back to bed. However, he doesn't lie around for long when this bathing beauty busts in. She was headed for the roof, but Bob's misleading signage led her astray. Sensing danger, she flees, but Hope is in hot pursuit. After gathering his props, he heads upstairs, where he quickly sights his target. Wow. This guy's nose isn't a ski slope, it's a runway for sexual harassment. She rightfully rejects his amorous advances, fleeing the uke-top serenading session. Better still, she locks the door behind her, trapping Bob. Now in a panic and desperate to catch up, he descends the fire escape. His semi-nude status attracts the attention of the crowd below, in turn catching the eye of a passing beat cop. Remember those? Hope assures him he's on the up and up, but O'Malley here isn't convinced and decides to run it past the landlady, Mrs. Peabody. She reacts as any right-thinking person would, with a shriek of terror and a slam of the door. Bob in Bermuda shorts isn't something anyone should have to suffer. Her cries for help from the street-side window draw the cop's attention, and he hurries outside, leaving to this comedy Ouroboros. Now that she's got a good gander at her house guests, Mrs. P likes what she sees. Bob explains he was simply stuck on the roof sunbathing, an idea which resonates with the old gal. Angered at having his time wasted, the cop storms off, leaving Hope at the mercy of his libidinous landlady. Nice bathing suit, though. Part 2 sees our prurient protagonist packing his bags for the beach. Time to split the scene for a sunnier clime. However, that's easier said than done, as Mrs. Peabody's on him about the rent again. In his haste to escape, Hope loses his umbrella, making the bus to Malibu with seconds to spare. Wait a sec. Bus to Malibu? I wonder if Joe Buck and Ratso are on there. Arriving at the beach, Bob heads to the umbrella stand, but his cheapskate nature leads to this unlikely setup. The umbrella dealer needs to judge a beauty contest, so if Hope will watch his stand for an hour, he can have his umbrella for free. Hacha! After a little bumbershoot shtick, something catches Hope's eye. It's the dame who locked him on the rooftop, and she's still salty about the ukulele serenade. However, Bob pleads his case, and in the process, misleads her into thinking he's the judge of the beauty contest. This makes him a liar, a lech, and a deadbeat to boot. What a role model. Now smitten, Hope follows her onto the beach, abandoning the stand. While he's making headway with the honey, other sunbathers are put out by the lack of attention and just start taking the umbrellas. That blue one is for me. And for you lovers of innuendo, scope out this little interaction. Get the kids out of the room. Before things can get any shadier, the umbrella stand owner reappears, and he's pretty put out. Seems he wants his money, something Bob has neglected to collect. Using a parasol as a prompt, Hope is prodded in the posterior until he's up and hustling. He begins the painstaking process of retrieving the brollies, but there's a problem, and it's punchy. Desperate, Bob again claims to be the judge of the beauty contest because, hey, it worked so well the first time. This puts a pause on the pummeling, but sets Hope up for a bigger pickle, as this tamale now expects to win first prize. Wait a sec. Mink tassel? I wonder if we're related. Bob continues to peddle his judge status, winding up all the gals on the beach while retrieving the umbrellas. Hope heads back to his towel, but the chippy has gone. Mrs. Peabody, however, has arrived with Bob's lost umbrella in tow. He tells the old crow to beat it, but she's not about to get the brush off. This guy still owes her back rent, and she demands satisfaction. In lieu of this, Bob offers to crown her queen of the beauty contest, a prospect that delights the biddy to no end. Slipping away, Hope continues hunting for the girl in the striped bathing suit. She said she had a place on the beach, and while he doesn't find her, he does find the suit. Wow, I thought DC Comics were meant to be wholesome. Then again, I used to think a lot of things. Bob bangs on the door of the bungalow looking for the suit's owner, leading to this potentially face-altering encounter. Good thing our hero's so well-versed in deception, huh? Take notes, kids. You never know when you'll have to talk your way out of violence. Umbrellas in tow, Hope skulks off, determined to return his burden and escape before he can be held accountable. Unfortunately, word has already gotten out, leading to some catty beachside exchanges. Folks quickly put two and two together, realizing they've all been duped. Noting their deceiver in the distance, the crowd surges forward, and Bob scrambles, dropping the umbrellas. Where's Charles Atlas when you really need him? Reaching the umbrella stand, Hope pleads with the owner to hide him. But why should he, after all the trouble Bob has caused? Hey, I can't think of a good reason. Finally relenting, he allows the endangered comedian to hide in an empty trunk, and just in time, the crowd is here and they're pretty fired up. The booth owner assures the angry mob the judge of the contest hasn't even been selected yet. He then directs two of the biggest men to carry the trunk to the main stage, lining the gals up for judging and hope for a fall. Put on the spot, old Bob does his best to assuage the crowd, but these aren't wartime GIs satiated by punchlines and pratfalls. They want results, and they want them now. Before Bob can begin, he's startled by a familiar cackle. It's Miss Peabody, and she's here for the contest too. Bob had better make good on his promise to crown her, or it's sleeping on the park bench tonight. He whips out the tape, but it turns out he's not the only one at work. The town mortician getting his own set of valuable measurements. This, however, gives the hapless Hope an idea, and he picks the biggest guy in the crowd, playing him against the others. A brawl breaks out, the angry couples now tearing into each other. Bob leans back and lets the mayhem happen. Let's add sociopath to our list of charges. Luckily, the cops pop up then, shutting the whole scene down. With the crowd dispersed, Hope seizes the opportunity and awards the trophy to the only contestant left, Mrs. Peabody. However, returning to the bus, he's set upon yet again, leading to an altogether new and unexpected journey. This is going to lead to an international incident. I just know it. And that's it. With the last comic read, there's no more stalling. I brush my teeth, throw on some pajamas, and step into the darkness. With thoughts of obese superhumans, unsettling stereotypes, and a horny Bob Hope in my head, I settle in for an uneasy sleep, the sense of the summer night and old paper in the air, cookie crumbs down my shirt, and the knowledge that my comics reading experience will never quite be the same again. 23 skidoo, kiddo.